Hey, have you thought about the design inside design of your book? So, one of the things I definitely hadn't thought about when I was doing my book was that there's something called interior design. So, that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. What the things that I needed it to think about and make decisions on when I was writing my book, because there's so many things to consider when publishing a book. So I wanted to go through this with you today. Yesterday's live video was all about the exterior, so the cover design. So if you want to know something about that, go look at that video as well. Um, Also, I do want to say that I have an expert interview coming up on interior design. So, this is going to be my experience with the book that I made. It's not going to be like general advice on it. I'm going to leave that to that expert interview. So, I look very much forward to sharing that with you, though. But okay, so when doing your book, there's a lot of things that you might not have thought about. So, for one thing, do you need your book cover to be on the first page when you open the book? I I'd never thought of that, but to be honest, I don't remember the reason. Maybe coherence. But that's what we chose to do. My book designer was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." Okay, so and then I also like the next page I have is dedications. So what do I want to write there? What do I want to um where do I want this to be? Because some people also do this at the end of the book. I chose to do this because it was amazingly important to me that the dedications of the book, or the people I dedicated the book to, are have been essential to me writing the book. So it's dedicated to my dad, my boyfriend, now husband, my mom, my mother-in-law, and also to the people we lost in the process. So my dad and two of the interviewees I did. So that's why I have this here. So if you see, there's like the birthday and death day of these people, and actually, um, one of the women who sadly died. I have to say, this book is about um, taking care of yourself as someone who takes care of someone who has long-term serious illness. So family caregivers, basically. So I interviewed her boyfriend and the father of her child, and after I did the interview with him, I couldn't get a hold of him, and it was kind of like, okay, so I'm kind of pressured to getting the book out. And then when he got back to me, he was like, "Sorry, the reason I didn't get back to you is that she died." And whoa, that was pretty hard. And that's also a thing to take into consideration when you're interviewing people, for example, for your book. What is their life situation? What is it that you need to take into consideration planning wise? That's a whole nother topic. I'm going to write that down and come back to that at another point. So, but I chose to then have the dedications as the next thing. Then you also have to have the copyright page, which I found that it's called. um, so I have my name, my title, which edition the book is. The You have to do, well, I did my own um, publishing, so um, I wrote that in. The Who did the graphics, who did the proofreading, who did the press, the print, who printed the book, the ISBN, and my own website address. And then down here actually is the company that printed the book, because I agreed with them that I would get a bit of a better price if I um, took their um, logo in the book. So that's small things, of course. One of the other things I did Oh, I need to do another video of that as well. Wow. But I just want to tell you now that one of the other things I did was that I did an Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaign on Indiegogo where I said, okay, so if you, well, we're actually coming to that, but I'll tell you now. So if you donate X amount of money, I'm going to give you a thanks in the book. So I had a couple of people do that. So they get a specific thanks in the book. That had to be done before the book went into print, of course. So the next thing, which now it comes down to really being specific here, the table of content. And a table of content is so much more than just a table of content because um, it aligns with the whole setup of the book, but you need to figure out how many layers do you want, how many subheading layers do you want in the table of content. My book is based on advice and tips and tricks, so I wanted it to have a lot of layers actually. So what I did was I have, of course, the like base um, chapters, and then I have exercises. I know this is like backwards, so sorry about that. Um, but yeah, so I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of uh, table of content because I thought it was very important that it's something that's when you have an exercise, for example, it should be easy just to look up the table of content. Oh, where was it that I had that? And then you don't have to kind of bend the pages or anything. You can just easily look it up. Then I have the thank you. Again, this is different from that's a decision as well. Do people want to have the thank you page in the front of the book or the back of the book? I chose to do it here because again, I think the people who added value to the book, it was important to get them in front of the book. And be very cautious here. I mention the names of the people who contributed to the book, which is amazing, good idea. But I forgot one of the names, really, really bad. So, um, yeah, and yeah. So down here, the very last thing is a thank you to the two people who chose to support the book with an extra amount of money, and that was really cool. um, yeah. So the next thing is for me, and this might be a good idea to add into um, your book when it's a nonfiction book is why this book. So setting it up, and another thing like um, all of these things that I'm mentioning now is things that you need to figure out where in the book do you want this to be. Why do you need to read this book or why this book would be a bad idea to put in the back, right? That's kind of a given. But some of the things that comes out on these pages is also, so I have quotes in here. So how do I want to quote? Do I want quotes to be, what I chose to is to give it a larger margin and then make it, is it called italic? I think cursive, I don't know, but another type of um, lettering, and then also put in the source and the page number here because it's a reference to something later in the book. Um, and the other thing to actually, and this was something that that I actually had a bit of a discussion, well, that not really a discussion, but something that I hadn't thought about as well. When we do lists like here, so one is what do you want to use as the list? So I just use dots, but do you want to put um, a dot at the end of each sentence, or do you want to be without dots at each of the sentences? And it's such a small thing. And what I figured after writing this book is that sometimes I use dots at the end of a sentence when I make lists, and sometimes I don't. So it's really important to be consistent because as a reader, this is the small things that will annoy you. It's the small things that will catch your eye and disturb the reading experience. So really, really important to do that. And actually, in the book, I have a mistake somewhere where I have a list, and the list is one of the points on the list is 2 lines, but they're stuck in the dot. So even though the line continues to the next line, or the sentence continues to the next line, I still have a dot at the side here. So that's really annoying. So when I reprint the book, that's going to be fixed. Another thing, of course, the book or the margins. How much do you want to be in the margins? I chose to very specifically to have enough space to be able to write a little bit in the margins, because I want a book to be something that you can take notes in. What kind of text size do you want? How readable should it be? Again, think of your audience, because it should be, for me, it should be easy to read. And a little note, what I did when I wrote the book, I had a page number that I wanted it to have 250 pages. And I was writing and writing and writing. And then all of a sudden I noticed, because I didn't really feel like there was a long way to 250 words, but all of a sudden I figured, oh, I wonder what font size people are using. So I looked at some of the books I already have, some of the books that I find to be easily read and good to read, and printed my own, and was like holding that up towards each other and be like, wow, my text size is really, my font size is really small. So I added that, and that added like 30 pages to my book. So that helped the morale a little bit in that process. um so yeah, definitely the what, and also the font. What font do you want? Remember, you need to find, either you need to buy a font, or you need to have a non-copyrighted font. Google has some non-copyrighted fonts that you can use. I chose, so this font is called Lato, so Lato. Okay, you didn't see if it can. Well, I like it. I think it's really readable and makes sense. And another small thing, and I know these are, but it's just to give you an idea. If you can see here, the or the color of the main text is gray, not black. The heading is black, and that's again thinking about the readability. When you have white paper, um, black, like a total black text will be very sharp on the eye, so you want the readability to be better. um, and also white paper, yellow paper, depending on the book, also depending on your industry. In some books, if you're writing uh, novels that are paperback novels, then a lot of them use yellow paper. I wanted it white paper, and I wanted it a specific thickness of paper, because I want people to be able to highlight without it going through the pages. I've had so many books, especially teaching books, where the paper is so thin that the highlight went through, and that's so annoying. Or the pen went through when writing notes in the or in the margins. I don't want that in my book. I want it to be able to write, mark and write without it going through the paper. So that's another thing. But then on the other hand, you also need to think about the thickness of the book, because the thicker the page or the paper you choose, the thicker the book is going to be, the heavier when you need to post it to people. So again, quite some things to consider. Um, and yeah, the brightness and shine of the paper as well. I wanted it, as I said, mine is very smooth paper, and I wanted it to be so that you could write on it, um, and again not have the pen go through. So there's a lot of things to consider there. The page numbers, where do you want them to be placed? Do you want them at the corner like I did, or do you want them in the middle of the page? Again, small thing, but yeah. The next thing that I decided to do in my book is to kind of let people know that you could read the book in different ways, because you can both read it from end to the other, but you can also just use it like I said with the table of content, you can just use it to look up different exercises and tips and stuff like that. So, and this might, you might think, okay, but can't people figure that out themselves? Yes, they probably can. But the reason I chose to make this part of my book was that the people um, I'm trying to reach with my book are people with a low amount of energy. They are at their, um, they have so much going on that the more I can just serve up what they need to do and what their options are, the better. So that's why I chose to have that. And again, that makes sense that that's in the beginning of the book. Um, and then also here I chose to put in other resources so that I have some of the resources that are on my webpage. And again, I wanted people to have that information really fast in the book, so that they could go to whatever makes sense for them. Um, and then turns out the book. So I start with my my background and my history. And then again, another thing that we needed to figure out is headings. Do they need to be centered or do they need to be um, on the left, not the right? That would be weird. And well, yeah. So, and what kind of the subheadings, like the size of the subheadings, what should they be? Should they be another color? Should they be so? And do I want another thing? Do you want colors in your book, or do you want it to be all black and white? Um, we have also in my book there are tips and tricks and there are exercises. So all of the exercises are lined out with with these dotted lines. And that's also something that I needed to take care of. How did I want the graphics to be? Um, um, yeah, give me 1 second. I had something else I wanted it to. Yes, also I had someone else contribute to the book. And again, you need to be very aware that when is it another person writing and when is it me writing. So what I did, again, I did the dotted lines, but then we also made a difference in um, the color, the background color, a slight difference. So presenting the writer up here in the darker, and then her contribution to it. Um, yes. And then again, another thing, what would you like the style of your graphics to be? So I chose okay, I chose very simple graphics and just put in like, here we are. And I developed them, and then my graphic designer um, did the graphics, funnily enough. And then again, when there was something a bit more important, I would have it put in um, marked like that. So all of these small things that you need to actually be aware of. See, is it, why is it important? What do, there's a lot of these like very small thing. Also the readability, that you're thinking that, okay, so where would you want to put your pictures in the page to make sense both for the text but also for the reader. um so let's see, if I have something else I wanted to say. Yes, another thing that I had a contributor who contributed with different archetypes. So with like with the other, it's set up like this, but within every archetype, I had a tip based on that. So that's, we did it like this. So then the tip was um, in the dotted, but then white, and it said tip from Diana. Um, yeah, let's see. What else did I have? that was about it for it. But I think, I hope that you got, oh no, oh, of course, at the back of the book, I have, well, not half the book is interviews. So, like I said, I am using references in throughout the book through these interviews. So, what I did when I wanted it to have the interviews, I was thinking I wanted it to have each interview accompanied by a picture. But what I found that that would be way too hard to incorporate, because then I would have to have some pages that were in color, or I would have to have the copyright for the pictures, or again, I would have to um, make sure that, well, I would have to go around the country to take pictures of the people who contributed, but not all. Some of them wanted it to be anonymous, so that was also um, kind of an issue. So actually, here I'm finishing up the book and then going into the interviews, and here we chose to put in the the cover of the book. Like you have here, there's this kind of, I don't know, cloudy thing. So we use that again here for this is the interviews from parents. And then over here, what we did is we used the names of, or the synonyms, or, and then here it says, okay, so the names in this story has been changed from a wish from the people who participated. Um, so um, just want to say. Okay, so in this one, it's the actual name, so there's no um, mark on that one. I wanted it to find a specific one. Oh, yeah, and then this is again a choice. So I had at the beginning, I had of the parents thing, I had a small note, and then here when like an prologue, where I'm just doing a little bit of evaluation based on that. And then we're starting over with the siblings as the next chapter. Um, okay, so I'm searching. Okay. Sorry. Here we are. Okay, so at the bottom here, this was again a design choice where I talked to Chris, who was the guy who lost her or lost his girlfriend. And so in the bottom of that interview, we chose to sit in another of these small lines with information that she unfortunately died after we did the interview. Um, so, and then of course, um, at the very end, I am choosing to explain some of the words that I use in the book, just in case people will need that. And also, and that's again, that's a choice. You can put that in the front or in the back, right? And then again, I have the literature list here. So, and that is also available on the website because there's a lot of links. So I thought it made sense to put that on the website as well. So that are some of the thoughts that I had uh, for the interior of my book. And as you see, this video is way longer than my lives usually are because there's a lot of things, a lot of thoughts going into the interior design. And I have to say that I am really grateful for the fact that I was working with a great um, designer who set up the book, and also a great proofreader who helped me with all of the like dots and setup and wording and stuff like that. So that's definitely a recommendation from me. So that's it for today. Remember to have fun, get shit done, and add in the comments if you have any questions. Bye.